The best stage of every character in Smash Ultimate, Part 1, Mario. For this series, I'm mostly using the legal stages on the Midwest Unified Stage list, which is used by over half of the US. Exceptions will be noted as honorable mentions where applicable. For this episode, I consulted Dominator, a top Mario in North America with wins over Hurt, Mars, and many more. Dominator told me that Mario's best stage is Battlefield, with PS2 as a close second. Why? Because triplats are good for extending Mario's combos, and the mere threat of dying at ludicrous percents allows Mario to control the game a lot better. PS2 is also good for combos, just slightly worse. PS2's low bottom blast zone also allows fair spikes to work at much lower percents. Honorable mention to Yoshi's story, which isn't legal often, but would be definitively Mario's best if it was. For this episode, I consulted Chunky Kong, a name that many of you already likely recognize. He's the best DK in NA, with wins over Light, Cola, and many more. I also consulted Noodle, another talented NA Donkey Kong. Both players pointed to PS2 as DK's best stage. This is mostly due to the low ceiling, which allows Ding Dong to work earlier, and the platforms being well positioned for tech chases. The small side blast zones also let DK players edgeguard with relative ease. Honorable mention to Yoshi's story, which serves as DK's definitive best stage in the instances where it's legal. For this episode, I consulted two North American links, Isabelle and Delta Force. Isabelle has wins over Atada and Raven King, while Delta Force has wins over Jackal, WebJP, and even on Tweak. Both links came to a consensus that his best stage belongs to Town and City. The long length of this stage is optimal for Link's projectile zoning, while the small side blast zones are good for Link's ledge trapping efforts. Not to mention, Link will often take stocks off of horizontal launches. Think forward air, forward tilt, or his neutral air. For this episode, I consulted Icy Mist. She's one of the best Samuses in North America, with wins over Sonics, Apollo Kage, Riddles, and many more. She also made clear to me that stage choice for Samus players is extremely reliant on personal preference, and can vary between different matchups. But Battlefield is the most versatile and overall best stage for Samus. The layout helps both advantage and escaping disadvantage, and the long length helps with zoning. She also mentioned that Smashville is a personal favorite, because it helps Samus ledge trap, something she's already quite good at. For this episode, I consulted Pharaoh, one of the best Yoshis in all North America, with wins over Zomba, Syrup, Cola, and many more. Pharaoh told me that Yoshi's best stage is Battlefield. Really simple today, it's basically because the triplat setup helps with Yoshi's already lucrative combos. Big honorable mention to Yoshi's story, with the same reasoning but taken to the extreme. Yoshi taking stocks at absurd percents. For this episode, I consulted J-Jaw, the best Kirby in America, if not the world, with wins over Cola, Beast Mode Paul, Ouch, and many more. J-Jaw pointed towards Final Destination as Kirby's best stage. Platforms tend to interrupt Kirby's combos, so the flat nature of FD allows Kirby to go ham uninterrupted. It also forces the opponent to land on the ground, which Kirby is quite suited to dealing with. For this episode, I consulted Tommy, formerly named Thas, a talented NA Fox main with wins over Geist, Doorstop, and more. Tommy pointed me towards PS2 as Fox's best stage. The stage's length allows Fox to easily maneuver around big hitboxes, while also being quick enough to close that distance easily. The platforms are also very suited for up air juggling and pressure, while also not allowing opponents to platform camp Fox. For this episode, I consulted Shiny Mark, the best Pikachu in the world, with wins over Akola, Mia, Sonics, and many more. Shiny Mark pointed me towards Kalos as Pikachu's best stage. Despite not being able to go underneath the stage, Pikachu's camping game is so strong on this stage that Shiny Mark considers it to be an auto win. For the record, I also consulted Esam, who's got wins over MKLeo, Mars, and more. Esam said that FD was actually Pikachu's best stage because there are no platforms to interrupt Pikachu's combos. But I'm going with Shiny Mark here, and he had FD as a close second, so it's not that big a deal. For this episode, I consulted Kiarash and also Waka. Kiarash has wins on Gluttony, Zomba, and many more, and Waka's got wins over Spargo, Shiny Mark, and more. From these two, Luigi's best stage is Small battlefield, with Hollow Bastion as a second. Both these stages have a low ceiling and a great length for Luigi's combos. As a bonus, Luigi's up tilt hits from under small battlefield's platforms, which is good for pressuring people. Shout out to FD, which many consider to be good, but it wasn't mentioned by either of these pros. For this episode, I consulted Syrup, global rank 14, who mained Ness for several years, as well as Atada, rank 128. Both players said that Ness's best stage is Battlefield. The platforms allow for great movement options, and to double jump PK fire on them. Ness is generally better on cramped stages as is, and the top platform makes landing easier for Ness. For the record, I also consulted PK Chris, who's got wins over MK Leo, Lima, and more. PK Chris prefers small battlefield for Ness, basically with the same exact reasoning, minus top platform. But I'm going with Battlefield today. For this episode, I consulted Fatality, the Falcon goat that I'm sure everyone's familiar with. Fatality pointed me towards Battlefield as Falcon's best stage. Really simple today. The platform setup helps with Falcon's up air ladders. Fatality also discussed Kalos Pokemon League as another great stage for Falcon. Honorable mention to Yoshi's Story, which is certainly Falcon's best stage when it's legal. For the record, I also consulted Andrik, who's got wins over Waka, MK Big Boss, and more. His only picks were Small Battlefield and an honorable mention to WarioWare. Reasoning here is, and I quote, IDK, I just dare. Take that for what you will, but I'm going with Fatality today. For this episode, I consulted Base Mage, the best Puff in North America, if not the entire worldwide scene. Base Mage pointed me towards Smashville as Puff's best stage. Jigglypuff is generally better on smaller stages because it's harder to run away from her, and a drifting aerial covers a lot of area on the stage, which also means that Puff gets edgeguard situations far more often. For the record, I also consulted Amok, Jigglypuff, and fellow content creator. Amok prefers small battlefield, but had Smashville at second. So I'm fine going with Smashville for this episode. Reasoning is the exact same too. For this episode, I consulted Yalmanac, who's got wins over Mutace, Skeleton, Atomic, and more. Yalmanac pointed me towards Smashville as Paisley's best stage. Smashville is small, so you're forced to box Paisley, but the small side blast zones allows Paisley to take stocks pretty early. And lastly, the center platform is good for Paisley's neutral game, allowing total control of center stage. For this episode, I consulted Leon, the best Bowser in the USA, with wins over Mars, Light, Cosmos, and many more. Leon said that Bowser's best stage is often pretty matchup dependent, but Small Battlefield was the most versatile and thus overall best Bowser stage. Leon said that the platform layout helps Bowser's ledge trapping, and the low bottom blast zone allows Bowser's side to work more often. My consultant for this episode was Big D, the best ice climbers in North America, with wins over Akola, Light, Gluttony, and many more. Big D said that Icy's best stage was Smashville. The small size of this stage means that it's much harder to camp out Icy's, and the center platform not only helps with neutral, but also makes the Blizzwall tactic harder to counter. Lastly, a vast majority of Icy's 0 to death combos work well here on Smashville. For this episode, my consultant was Captain L, a Canadian Sheik main with wins over Big D, Ouch, Fatality, and more. Firstly, Sheik's best stage is often very matchup dependent, but Battlefield was the most versatile and therefore best stage for Sheik, with Town and City being a close second place. Both stages have a lot of room for Sheik to maneuver and abuse her good mobility, and both stages have their upsides. Town and City's side blast zones allow for early stocks, something that Sheik struggles with, but Battlefield's platforms are better suited for her combos. So pick whichever you prefer, honestly. For this episode, I consulted Solaros. She's a talented Midwest Zelda player who's got wins over Atada, Ice Knight, and many more. She pointed me towards Smashville as Zelda's best stage. The reasoning here is that the small size of Smashville is good for the Phantom, one of the defining moves of Zelda's entire game plan. Basically, this stage makes Zelda's zoning that much better. For this episode, I consulted Poppin, a Midwest Dr. Mario and Little Mac dual main, who's got wins over Big D, Deathspade, Ploopy, Justin25, and many more. Poppin told me Town and City was Doc's best. The long length and flat nature allows Doc to pill camp easily, the platforms are good for confirms, and the small side blast zones let options like Tornado KO early. Poppin also said that Hollow Bastion was a personal favorite for Doc, for many of the same reasons. For this episode, I consulted Some Guy, a talented North American Pichu main, with wins over Dabuz, WebJP, Pharaoh, and many more. Some Guy said Pichu's best stage was Town and City. Pichu almost always takes stocks off of the side, and Town's blast zones help with this. The platform layout also helps combos without interrupting T-Jolt. For this episode, I consulted Tilde, the best Falco in North America, with wins over Light, Zamba, Meister, and many more. Tilde said that Town and City was Falco's best, with Battlefield as a close second. But hold on. Here's the thing. Tilde admitted that Battlefield was likely better than Town, but no one in their right mind would leave Battlefield open against a Falco player, so it's practically a banned stage. An interesting spin that I haven't seen any consultant pull out yet. But I'll follow what Tilde said and say Town's the best stage. As for why, Falco lives longer off the top, and he also gets extensions off of the platforms, which also help with Falco's recovery, providing helpful mix-ups. For this episode, I consulted Andrew SK, formerly named Chumples, a rising star for Marth representation. Andrew SK said that Marth's best stage belonged to Battlefield. This stage helps with combo extensions, lets up tilt and forward tilt take stocks earlier, and the top platform makes up B much safer, much like Samus's. For this episode, my consultant was Mr. E, the best solo Lucina, with wins over Light, Tweak, Spargo, and many more. Mr. E said that Lucina's best stage belonged to Smashville. Basically, the platform helps with juggles and combo extensions, helped by the fact that Smashville's platform takes up a lot of the stage's area, and it helps with up B out of shield. For this episode, my consultant was Majestic Souls, who has wins over Zurzel, Epic Gabriel, and many more. Majestic Souls said Young Link's best stage belonged to Town and City, with Kalos as a close second. All Links naturally want big stages for their zoning, and the platforms open up opportunities for Young Link's boomerang tech chases and early stocks. Same reasoning also applies to Kalos, but Town's small side blast zones are slightly better. Shout out to PS2, another long stage that's another great option for Yink. For this episode, I consulted Major, the best Ganondorf in North America, with wins over Send, Beastly, Mr. E, and more. Major said that Ganon doesn't really have a best stage per se. Picking against your opponent's good stages and personal preference plays a massive part in stage choice for Ganondorf, but Major's favorite belongs to Smashville. There's little room to camp Ganon, up smash covers the entire platform, and the small blast zones lets Ganondorf take stocks that much earlier. For this episode, I consulted Leonidas, who's got wins over Luis, Nestboy 12, Lamers 44, and more. Leonidas said Mewtwo's best stage was Town and City. Lots of room to camp and play evasive here, and the small side blast zones lets Mewtwo find some early stocks. Kalos Pokemon League is also a very popular choice for many of the same reasons, and some Mewtwo's prefer it over Town and City because it benefits other characters less. For this episode, I consulted Cola, the best Roy in the world, with wins over Spargo, Acola, Sonics, and many more. Cola said Roy's best stage was Small Battlefield, and I know a lot of common consensus points towards Town as Roy's best stage. But Cola thinks Town and City isn't all that, mostly because the flat variation really sucks for Roy. Instead, Small Battlefield offers platform extensions, good blast zones, and neutral layouts. Cola also mentioned that very often, Roy's stage choice is matchup dependent, and that he doesn't really have a best stage in many scenarios. For the record, I also consulted Hyper Kirby, aka Mugen, who agreed with everything Cola said. For this episode, I consulted Lancelot, the best Chrom in Europe and perhaps the world, with wins over Gact, Ron, Tarek, and many more. Lancelot said Chrom's best stage was Pokemon Stadium 2. Really simple today. PS2 is the stage Chrom is least likely to get edgeguarded, thanks to all of the space off the sides. The blast zones and platforms also help him out. For this episode, I consulted Ploopy, the boy genius from Kansas City with wins over Luis, Lima, Jazzo, and many more. Ploopy said that Game & Watch's best stage belonged to Hollow Bastion. The size is big enough to where he has room to operate, but small enough to prevent getting camped by opponents. Also, while many may think Battlefield was a contender, Ploopy insisted that Game & Watch prefers one platform for optimal juggles. For this episode, I consulted Bonk, one of the long-standing reps for the character here in NA, with wins over Mr. E, Leon, and Quandale Dingle-Lingleton, among many others. Bonk told me that Meta Knight's best stage belonged to Small Battlefield, because SBF has the best parts of normal Battlefield and Final Destination all mixed together. Lower platforms for easy ladder resets and smaller blast zones, without benefiting other characters too much. Pokemon Stadium 2 is another great choice, and even better if you prefer higher platforms. It's worth noting that certain Echo Fighters actually have different best stages, like Marth Lucina or Roy Chrom, but others don't, like Peach and Daisy or Samus and Dark Samus. Pit and Dark Pit fall into this latter category. For this episode, I consulted Silver, a Canadian Pit and Wii Fit with wins over Luis, Andres FN, Lemon, and many more. Silver said that Pit's stage choice is matchup and personal preference dependent, but Silver chose Pokemon Stadium 2. Platform extensions galore, and these small side blast zones give more value to ledge trapping. The longer length makes PS2 better than, say, SBF. Episode, I consulted Shu. She's a talented NA ZSS main with wins over Riddles, Kurama, Shattuck, and many more. She said that ZSS's best stage went to PS2. This stage's layout lets ladder combos take more stocks, and the length lets ZSS abuse her mobility options. Additionally, the platforms are well situated for combo starters, and she can use flip jump bounces in the area beneath ledge. Small Battlefield is also very good for many of the same reasons, it's just that PS2 is better. For this episode, I consulted Loaf, potentially the best Wario in NA, with wins over Mutace, Lima, Umeki, and many more. Loaf said that Wario is a really flexible character and doesn't really have a best stage per se. It all depends on your playstyle and the matchup. Timeout Wario players want longer stages, while more aggressive Wario players want the exact opposite. But the one factor that Loaf did point out was Wario's survivability, which made Loaf pick Kalos as Wario's best stage. Basically, the blast zones favor Wario, who doesn't really take stocks off of the top all that often, and the small side blast zones makes it harder to gimp him. Battlefield and Small Battlefield are also good for basically the same reasons. For this episode, I consulted Apollo Kage, the best snake in North America, with wins over Spargo, MKLeo, Sonics, and many more. AK said that Snake's best stage was Hollow Bastion. The single platform layout is very good for Snake, and Hollow Bastion has less weaknesses than Smashville does, which also means Smashville is pretty good for Snake. Apollo Kage also mentioned Small Battlefield as it's particularly good for C4 placements. For this episode, I consulted Mega, a talented North American Ike main with wins over Mr. E, PK Chris, and many more. When I asked Mega what stage was Ike's best, I was told that Ike players hotly debate this. And the answer may be different for each person. Mega then went and asked a bunch of other Ike players himself. Luxa, Babino, Nico, and many more. And apparently, those Ike mains came to a consensus that Battlefield was Ike's best stage. Thanks for doing my job for me, Mega. Pretty simple reasoning, the platform layout really helps out with Ike's combos. Also worth noting that PS2 was a popular choice among these players. For this episode, I consulted Doorstop, a PT and ZSS dual main with wins over Lima, Mutace, Anin, and many more. Doorstop told me that PT's best stage was Smashville. This is because Squirtle is much harder to camp since Smashville is a smaller stage. Also, the middle platform really helps with Ivysaur's neutral, as he can pressure with Bear. Also, because the stage is smaller, it's much easier to put opponents off stage and into edgeguard situations, which is one of Pokemon Trainer's strongest win conditions. For this episode, I consulted Beastly, a talented North American Diddy Kong with wins over Shattuck, Lima, Meister, and many more. Beastly said that Diddy Kong's best stage was Kalos. This is because Kalos is a long, mostly flat stage, which is what Diddy likes. The platforms are also in very good spots for Diddy Kong without benefiting other characters all that much. And lastly, Kalos has a wall that Diddy Kong can cling to, a feature that's practically irrelevant on any other stage. For this episode, I consulted Bubs, a Lucas main with wins over Light, Mr. E, and many more. Bubs said that Lucas's best stage was Final Destination. It's very hard to camp Lucas due to the lack of platforms and small size, which also means that Lucas's horizontal tools demand your continual, complete respect. Options like Zair, PK Fire, Fair, and some others. But Bubs also said that there's no runner-up. Aside from FD, Lucas doesn't really have a best stage per se. And if FD is not available, you're better off just picking against whatever your opponent's best stages are. For this video, I consulted Wrath, the best Sonic in the US, with wins over Mia, Tweak, Rauru, and many more. Wrath told me that Sonic's best stage was Town. The stage's length makes it good for timeouts, the platform layout aids in saving whiffed spin dashes, and the small side blast zones let edge guards take stocks earlier. PS2 is also a great stage for many of the same reasons, and especially since PS2 is longer, but Wrath thinks Town and City has the edge. For this episode, my consultant was Kilogram Hours, a North American DDD with wins over P-Easy, Candle, Zeed, and many more. Kilogram Hours said DDD's best stage belonged to Smashville. The small size means that it's easier to control the stage with DDD's good range, and easier to knock opponents away for ledge traps, which is DDD's main win condition. For this episode, I consulted Candle, an NA Olimar with wins over Akala, Hurt, Anin, and many more. They said that Olimar's best stage went to Town, with Small Battlefield as a second. Here's the thing, both of these stages are great for different reasons, and picking between them really comes down to the matchup of whichever character you're currently fighting. Town is great because the length lets you farm Pikmin even while in disadvantaged state, but it's bad in certain matchups because of these small side blast zones losing you stocks at earlier percents. While SBF is great for hiding under the platforms, and the length is perfect for Olimar's camping game. So pick whichever is better for your current matchup, but Candle gave Town a slight edge here as Olimar's best stage. For this episode, my consultant was Kai Mystic, a North American Lucario with wins over Lemon, Marvelous Marco, and many more. Kai Mystic said Lucario's best stage was Kalos, and by a lot. The massive length and large blast zones lets Lucario live longer to farm aura, while also giving space to charge neutral B. Plus, Lucario can cling to the walls, not only normally, but also through up B, giving his recovery a valuable mix-up. And if all that wasn't enough, the platforms are also very good for Lucario's combos and camping game. Honorable mentions go to Battlefield or Hollow Bastion, depending on the matchup. For this episode, I consulted Zamba, the best Rob in the world, who's got wins over Akala, Spargo, and many more. Zamba said that Rob's best stage was matchup dependent, but Kalos was the overall best. This is because the wall allows you to catch Gyro off stage a lot easier, while also making it much harder for opponents to avoid Rob's edge guards. Additionally, the length allows Rob to camp much easier while also improving his own recovery. For the record, I also consulted Anathema, who went with Smashville as Rob's best stage, because the small size helps Rob's volatile advantage state, letting him take stocks much earlier. Both players gave Town and City an honorable mention. For this episode, my consultant was Marvelous Marco, an NA Toon Link main with wins over Riddles, Jackal, and many more. Marvelous Marco said Toon Link's best stage is dependent on the matchup, but Town was the overall best. Toon Link mostly takes stocks off of the side, and the length allows Toon Link to projectile camp with relative ease. Marco also gave a shout out to Smashville, but mentioned that the smaller size means that it's harder to have stage control. For this episode, I consulted Danny, a talented Wolf with wins over Tweak, Gluttony, Ken, and many more. Danny said that Wolf doesn't really have a best stage per se. It's more about picking against your opponent's best stage. And Wolf is good on every stage except Smashville, but overall, PS2 is Wolf's best. Basically, this just boils down to PS2 being a very neutral stage, where Wolf can play his game against most characters other than Mario and Donkey Kong. For this episode, I consulted Elam. No, not Eram, Elam, an NA villager with wins over MVD, Ling, and many more. Elam said that Villager's best stage was Small Battlefield. The platforms are well positioned for tree setups and platform tech chases. The stage length is also good for controlling space, both in neutral and advantage state. Also, the lack of a top platform is good, since Villager struggles to effectively reach any top platform. For this episode, I consulted Peanut, the best Mega Man right now, who's got wins over Mia, Light, and many more. Peanut said that Mega Man's best stage was Kalos. Simple reasoning today, the walls improve Mega Man's recovery and his dare edgeguard sequences. You could also mention that the length allows you to camp easier. For this video, my consultant was John Numbers, who has wins over Zomba, DeBuzz, and many more. John Numbers said Trainer's best stage was Small Battlefield. This is because John Numbers prefers lower platforms for low percent combos, as well as platforms that are closer to ledge. A special shout out to Lilat for the same reasons. However, John Numbers mentioned that his take was certainly a hot one and recommended getting a second opinion. I got that from Just Blue, a Steve main with a notable Wii Fit secondary. A lot like Syrup with Ness. Just Blue prefers Kalos Pokemon League for better camping and easier planking in order to farm deep breathing. You also live a lot longer. For this video, I consulted DeBuzz, the best Rosalina in the world, with wins over frickin' everybody, man. You guys know who DeBuzz is. And he said that Rosalina's best stage was Battlefield. I asked why, to which DeBuzz responded with, and direct quote here, "Platforms go burr." Take that for whatever you will, but it's clear that Rosalina benefits from platforms through her juggling game. For this episode, I consulted Peanut, fellow content creator and Little Mac expert, with wins over Apollo Kage, Siski, and many more. Peanut said Little Mac's best stage was Small Battlefield by a lot. This is because it's really easy to set up max confirms off of the platforms. Plus, you can jump on them with just a normal full hop. It's also the perfect length to avoid getting camped and force approaches. For the record, I also consulted Quaz, another talented NA Little Mac, and he agreed with Peanut's consensus. For this episode, I consulted Ice Knight and also Anarchy. Ice Knight's got wins over Shattuck, Candle, and many more, while Anarchy has notable wins over Lima and Cola, among several others. They disagreed on Greninja's best stage, but basically had the same reasoning, with Anarchy preferring Town and City, while Ice Knight chose Kalos Pokemon League. Both stages have small side blast zones and flat area, which helps with Greninja's whiff punish based playstyle. Plus, Greninja likes to take stocks off the side. So pick whichever you want, honestly. For the sake of the episode, I'll pick Town, since Kalos is sometimes not legal. For this episode, I consulted Fire the Pyro and also Yeast. Yeast has wins over Zomba, Peanut, and many more, while Fire the Pyro's got wins over JDV and Big D, among several others. Both players agreed that, while running Thrust Uppercut as your up B, Pokemon Stadium 2 is Brawler's best. Mostly just because the small ceiling lets Thrust Uppercut take stocks earlier, though Yoshi's story gets a shout out. For the record, Brawler's other choices for up B have different answers for best stage. Helicopter Kick's best goes to Town for the small side blast zones, and for Soaring Axe Kick, it's certainly Final Destination. For this episode, I consulted Ramble, who made the Me Swordfighter video many of you have already seen. Ramble said that Swordfighter's best stage was Small Battlefield. This is because the platforms allow extensions for Me Swordfighter's deadly combos. Hollow Bastion was a close second, with the reasoning being the same. But Ramble mentioned that he hasn't really experimented with any of the longer stages. This is why I also consulted Susu, a French Steve whose Swordfighter has seen high-level play, and even an appearance in a major top 8. Susu said that Town and City was Swordfighter's best. The long length allows you to camp with Shuriken, while the small sides let you find early stocks with up B. PS2 is also good for the exact same reasons, it's just that Town and City is more consistent. For the sake of the episode, I'll go with what Susu said, since this series is competitively oriented, and Susu is a tournament competitor at a high level. For this episode, I consulted Lammers44, one of the top gunner reps in the world, with wins over Luis, Kiarash, Monty, and many more. Lammers said that Gunner's best stage was Small Battlefield. In general, Gunner loves dual platforms because they act as an umbrella, shielding Gunner from danger while allowing you to safely camp your enemies. It also helps with Gunner's many evasive movement options. Lammers picked SBF over PS2 because the platforms cover more stage area. They're also lower, which lets you cover them with just short hop. For this episode, I consulted Luis, a veteran Palutena with wins over Mia, MKLeo, Doramigi, and many more. Luis told me Palutena doesn't have a best stage. She's so versatile and well-rounded that basically any stage will work. It all depends on the matchup. But overall, Town was Luis's favorite. This is because the platforms and small sides benefit Palutena a lot. And she's good on this stage versus basically everyone except for Kazuya. This same reasoning also applied to Pokemon Stadium too. It's just that Town was better by a hair. For this episode, I consulted Isaiah, a North American Pac-Man with wins over Mutace, Wilds, and many more. Isaiah said that Pac's best stage belonged to PS2. This is because the stage is really long, so Pac-Man can really camp to his heart's content. Additionally, the platform height lets you set up tech chase situations with Bell and Dare. Lastly, your opponents can't go under the stage to avoid ledge traps. For this episode, my consultant was Mr. Lil Raul, a Robin main from Mexico who has wins over Chag, Mo, Luis, and many more. Mr. Lil Raul said Robin's best stage was Town. First of all, the small sides let ledge traps take stocks earlier, something Robin is quite good at. The stage is also very long, which lets you camp and recharge all your resources. Lastly, the platforms are very good for Robin's combos. For this episode, I consulted Elijah Min, a contender for the best Shulk outside of Japan, who has wins over Snow, Ouch, and many more. Elijah Min said that Shulk's best stage belonged to Smashville. Really simple reasoning, this is because Smashville is a really small stage, which lets Shulk's big disjoints control as much area as possible. For this episode, I consulted Waidara, who's got wins over Kurama, Gact, and many more. Waidara said Junior's best stage was Town and City. This is because the small sides lets Junior find very early stocks that simply aren't possible anywhere else. You could also make the argument that the length is conducive to Junior's camping game and Side B. For this episode, I consulted Zog, better known as Big Duck Hunt Fan 7000, who's got wins over Tweak and MKLeo among many other players. Additionally, Zog has apparently consulted Jagabata about this issue, one of the phenomenal Japanese reps of the character. Both players agreed that Duck Hunt's best stage belonged to Small Battlefield. That's because nearly the entire stage is covered in platforms, good for Duck Hunt's extensions. There are lots of other stages that are fine, just not as good as SBF. For this episode, I consulted Vendetta, who's got wins over Cola, Anathema, and many more. Vendetta said that Ryu's best stage was Small Battlefield. As a general rule of thumb, SBF is pretty good for Shotos. The small size and lack of a top platform prevents you from getting camped out. The platforms also help with extensions. For this episode, I consulted Jazo, the best Ken in the world, with wins over Riddles, Shuton, Hurt, and many more. Jazo said that Ken's best stage was Small Battlefield. On second thought, I probably could have combined the Ken and Ryu episodes, especially since the reasoning's the same. But here's extra reasons for it. The platforms on SBF being lower means that Shotos can cover them so much easier. And the blast zones are equally small from all sides, so you can get early stocks from any direction. For this episode, I consulted Anthony Isn't Cool, a talented Cloud with wins over Anin, Tarek, Kananabe, and many more. Anthony Isn't Cool said that Cloud's best stage belonged to Battlefield. The three platforms help with Cloud's juggling and movement, giving him escape options and disadvantage. His down air also pokes through platforms for pressure. Small Battlefield is another good choice, but Normal Battlefield is just better. For this episode, I consulted Neo, the best Corrin in Japan, if not world currently. Neo said that Corrin's best stage belonged to Kalos. This is because the walls vastly improve Corrin's recovery since you can pin on them, much like Sephiroth. The platforms are also very good for Corrin's combos to take stocks. And the lack of platforms in center stage makes juggling much simpler. The only downside is the high ceiling, which makes up air take stocks much later, which is where PS2 comes in as a second. For the record, I also consulted Shampoo, a Rising Star Corrin main. She prefers Small Battlefield for Corrin because of how you can pin through the platforms, which is huge. It's also got a lower ceiling compared to Kalos. For this episode, I consulted Deathspade, who's got wins over Mars, Apollo Kage, and many more. And while Deathspade did tell me Bayo's best stage, who cares what Deathspade told me? I'm just gonna ignore that and say it myself because I know better than Deathspade. Bayo's best stage is really between Town and SBF, but Small has the slight edge. This is because it's more versatile. You can take stocks off of the top or off the sides. instead of Town, where you're forced to take stocks off the side. She can also plank and change her recovery better on this stage than on Town. And the platforms are good for extensions, like with almost every character. By the way, everything I said is from Deathspade. I was kidding earlier if you somehow couldn't tell. It baffles me that people are actually still mad about that. You know me and Deathspade are from the same local scene, right? For this episode, I consulted Sheik, a UK Inkling with wins over Crepe Soleil, Siski, and many more. Sheik said that Inkling's best stage was Hollow Bastion. This is because the platform layout is very good, with Inkling always having opportunities to get good damage out of grabs. Additionally, the ceiling is lower than most other stages, meaning that you get early stocks from up air and up smash. And lastly, there's lots of room off the sides, allowing you to go deep to get edge guards. For this episode, I consulted Kaden, a talented Ridley with wins over Goblin, OG, Skeleton, and many more. Kaden said Ridley's best stage was Town and City. This is because Ridley nearly always takes stocks off of the side, and Town helps find those stocks, especially side B. The platforms are also well positioned for side B tech chase situations. Lastly, the long size of Town helps Ridley in certain slower matchups. For this episode, I consulted Karu, a talented Belmont with wins over Apollo Kage, Omega, and many more. Karu said that Belmont's best stage belonged to Smashville by a lot. Belmont's whole game revolves around the ledge, and on Smashville, it's much easier to get you and your opponents on the ledge. This is because the stage is relatively pretty small, meaning your whip and many projectiles cover a majority of stage area. As an added bonus, it's easier to perform Descending Holy Water, a Belmont tech, because of how the ledges work on Animal Crossing stages. For this episode, I consulted Brujo, a Kazuya and K-Rool co-main with wins over Syrup, Zamba, Cola, and many more. Brujo said that King K. Rool's best stage was Pokemon Stadium 2. The low ceiling and limited room when off stage can help in taking stocks early, while the long length allows you to projectile camp when it's needed. Oh my god, Isabelle's part 69. For this episode, I consulted Twitchy, a Rising Star Isabelle main with wins over Anarchy, Danny, and more. Twitchy said that Isabelle's best stage belonged to Smashville. This is because the small size and massive platform allows Isabelle to play her role as a trapper so much easier, since she's able to control a lot of space. It also helps in bad matchups, since she can approach easier too. Shout out to SBF for similar reasons. For this episode, I consulted Litten, a talented Incineroar with wins over Superdog, Chag, and many more. Litten said that Incineroar's best stage belonged to Smashville. This is because the massive platform helps with Incineroar's combos and juggling, giving him stage control as well. The small size also lets you take early stocks from any direction. Shout out to Town for early stocks with side B, but this stage can easily backfire in certain matchups. For this episode, I consulted Lucky, who's got wins on Jazzo, Big D, and more. Lucky said that Plant's best stage was Small Battlefield. Typically, Plant likes platforms to be next to ledge. This bolsters both your ledge trapping and advantage state. And also, SBF is generally just a neutral stage, which benefits Plant. Shout out to Battlefield, which is also good for Plant, but Lucky prefers SBF because certain characters can camp on top platform. For this episode, I consulted Omega, the best Joker in the US, with wins over Mia, Cola, Light, and many more. Omega said that Joker was great on any stage, but his pick was Small Battlefield. Joker doesn't really have a best stage per se. Like Omega said, he's well-rounded and great everywhere. Your stage choice should be based on who you're fighting and what's their best stage. So Small Battlefield was picked because it's well-rounded and relatively neutral. For this episode, I consulted Chugs, a talented hero with wins over Lima, Peanut, Omega, and many more. Chug said Hero's best stage was Town and City. This is because the long length lets you farm for menu buffs. The platforms help with up B into up tilt out of shield, and the small sides help you with finding early stocks and using zoom in your recovery. For this episode, I consulted Juanpi, a talented Banjo with wins over Goblin, Wrath, Jake, and many more. Juanpi said that Banjo's best stage really depends on how much space you need in any given matchup. If you don't need a lot of space, then Small Battlefield should be your pick. But in matchups where you need the extra space, Town and City is Banjo's best. And since those matchups are more common than not, Town is Banjo's best overall stage. Banjo can easily camp on Town, nearly untouchable when you want it. Banjo also benefits from the sides being so small, since he nearly always takes stocks off the sides. For this episode, I consulted Y Delirious, perhaps the best Terry in America, with wins over Peanut, Jazzo, Danny, and many more. Y Delirious said Terry's best stage was Town and City. This is because Terry almost always takes stocks off of the side, with deceptively bad vertical finishing power. The platforms are also surprisingly good, with center platform helping Terry's juggling, and side platforms assisting Terry's recovery. For this episode, my consultant was Justin Byleth, a talented Byleth main with wins over Jackal, Rothlo, Susu, and many more. Justin Byleth said Byleth's best stage was Hollow Bastion. This is because it's perfect length to not get camped or smothered. And you also get well rewarded for controlling center stage, something that Byleth's great at. Shout out to Yoshi's, which isn't legal here in America, but would be Byleth's best stage if it was. For this episode, I consulted Zurzel, the best Min in America, with wins over Lima, Mutes, Danny, and many more. Zurzel said that Min's best stage was Smashville. This is because it's a great length, allowing you to be explosive when needed. It's also easier to two-frame on both the Animal Crossing stages. And the big middle platform provides lots of cover from descending aerials. For this episode, I consulted Syrup, rank number 11 in the world, with wins over Akala, Mia, Spargo, and many more. Syrup said that Steve's best stage is matchup dependent, but Syrup picked Small Battlefield as Steve's overall best. You get to plank and edgeguard with blocks here. You get stone from mining here, and it's long enough to camp, but not too long, you know? For this episode, my consultant was Platinum 5, a talented Sephiroth main with wins over Candle, Pharaoh, Bacon, and many more. Platinum 5 said Sephiroth's best stage is matchup dependent. It all depends on your opponent. When you're fighting slower, campier characters, you want smaller stages to approach. But against fast, more agile characters, you want that extra space. Overall though, PS2 is the best. This is because it's very versatile, large enough to retreat when needed while also having your big aerials cover stage area. For this episode, I consulted Reed, a talented Aegis with wins over Mr. E, Quid, and many more. Reed said Aegis's best stage was Town and City. That's because Mithra mostly takes stocks off the sides. And since Aegis is so bad when off stage, the long length protects you from being knocked away from the stage. There's so much room on Town for Aegis to play her best. Shout out to Battlefield, which is great for Mithra juggling. For this episode, I consulted Silsey, a talented Kazuya with wins over Ploopy, Deathspade, Kaden, and many more. Silsey said that Kazuya's best stage was Final Destination. This is a pretty simple episode. FD has no platforms, making Kazuya's combos practically inescapable. You can't escape to a platform, and Kazuya will never have to guess on platforms. It's close to a free win. For this episode, I consulted Deathspade, whose co-main Sora is the best in North America, with wins over Send, Spickles, Kiarash, and many more. Deathspade said that Sora's best stage belonged to Smashville. This is because the big platform really helps combos, as well as controlling center stage. Sora is also quite good at juggling on Smashville. But Deathspade did want to mention that Sora has lots of good stages, so your answer may differ. For those unaware, I use the random episode to tally up results across the series. The reasoning being, if you picked random, what's most likely your best stage? Ultimately, it came down to the Animal Crossing stages, with Town winning with 19 characters, no echoes needed, and Smashville coming in second place with 16 characters. At the bottom, you've got Hollow Bastion with 4, and the worst was Final Destination, with only Kirby, Lucas, and Kazuya calling it home. But does this mean Town is the most neutral stage, or is it Final Destination? What about Battlefield or PS2, both in the middle? Debate in the comments down below. Since I consulted Smash Bros. Pros, this is not a corrections episode, but I reached out to a lot of people, some of whom only responded after the episode had already been released. This episode is for those people. First of all, Icy Mist didn't know about honorable mentions and wanted to give a shout out to Yoshi's story. Remrin thinks Mewtwo's best stage actually belongs to Kalos. Javi on Earth thinks Villager's best is Hollow Bastion. Toast thinks Joker's best is Town. MK Big Boss likes Battlefield or Town and City. Apparently Spargo has said Cloud's best was PS2, but I couldn't find proof of him saying that, so take it with many grains of Himalayan salt. Beast likes Yoshi's for Pokemon Trainer. Synergy prefers Smashville as Robin's best. And Rocky, Ouch, and Beast Mode Paul all responded to me, agreeing with the actual answer given in the episode. So we've finished the best stage of every character in Smash Ultimate. So what's next? My next series will be remaking the worst move of every character in Smash Ultimate, which was originally done on the Luminosity Smash channel. It is the only series I plan to remake until the next Smash is announced, at which point I might remake both Best Player and Best Tournament, but I don't want to jump the shark on those. And I've already consulted Smash Pros for this series, the exact same consultants as the Best Stage series. Be on the lookout for my upcoming redemption arc. See you then.